Hey everyone, I'm Smoke to Poster Patters, and for this month, I've been working on making references for a bunch of my characters for Art Fight, which I meant to do several months ago, but I'm doing it now. I wanted to show my process, and also tell you about my OCs, and maybe give a few tips to make your life easier when you're making references last minute like I was. If you don't know what Art Fight is, it's basically this yearly art event that is like competitive art trades. You do a piece for someone, and your team gets points. If they want to get points back for their team, they'll draw a picture for you, and then you can draw a picture for them to get those points back, and so on and so forth. It's really good if you want to practice drawing other characters, make art friends, or just for a fun time. It only happens for the month of July, so if you're watching this now and you want to participate, I recommend making an account right now. Like, stop what you're doing, make an account. If you want to participate, you'll first need some characters, and you'll need some pictures of your characters. If you have some pictures already, that's probably fine, but a full body reference with a few different angles is really nice for other people, because then they'll know how to draw that character from whatever angle they're trying to do. I don't consider myself an expert, but I do have a few tips I could share that made it a lot faster for me to make these references than it has in the past. My first tip is to use symmetry brushes. I usually take advantage of Clip Studio Paint's symmetry brushes in the sketching and inking phases, because it basically cuts down on how much you have to draw by half, which, when you're drawing last minute, is a must. I can always draw the other eye correctly because I'm drawing both the eyes at the same time, and so on. To do this, you'll want to go to the rulers, pick symmetry brush, hold shift, and then click and make a line horizontally, as close to the middle as you can. If you're doing illustrations, it's not going to be really useful because you can only really do it from a full frontal angle or the back, but when you are working on a view, it makes it a lot faster and a lot easier to get stuff in the right spots. Tip number 2 is to not shade your reference. When you're making a reference picture, it should all be flat color. This might sound kind of strict and a weird rule, but the reason is that when you add the shadows, it can be hard to tell, especially if little details that are fully in the shadow, what color they're supposed to be, even when there is a color swatch. Speaking of which, tip number 3 is to include a color swatch. You should include a color swatch somewhere in the final reference picture. Not only will this be useful for you if you're not using something that has a color history option like Clip Studio Paint, it'll provide a good spot for people to color pick most of the colors, so they know they aren't actually going to pick the line art or something. It'll make the lives of whoever's looking at your reference picture a lot easier, and it can make your life easier as well. Tip number 4 is to make a template. This is more after you finish your first reference picture, but once you finish that first reference picture, I definitely recommend saving as a new template, like name it reference template or something, and removing the details to that specific character, and making that a template you can use with any other reference sheet you might have to make. It'll just make it so you don't have to remake the template over and over again, and provides a bit of consistency, which you might want. I actually include the template I made for my own characters if you'd like to use that to start. I'm not the best at template making, but I wanted to provide somewhere to start if you don't know where to start. It has all the basics that I included in my reference sheets. Tip number 5 is to include important details. This is actually one I realized halfway through working on my references, you'll probably be able to tell, and I completely forgot about before, but it's super important. Besides whatever poses you include, make sure you also include details that are part of the character but might not be easy to spot. For example, if there's specific markings or tattoos, you want to have that in somewhere where it's flat so people can get an idea of what the tattoo is. Also, if you draw your character's mouth closed in your reference sheet, draw a reference of their mouth, because, you don't know if somebody's character has, say, a blue tongue, or maybe it's a forked tongue, or maybe they have piercings or fangs, which is why it's a good idea to just have that reference so people can know what's going on if they draw your character's mouth open at any time. Those are all my big tips. But I also wanted to cover some of the characters I've been drawing and talk about them, and sort of how they came to be. The first OC I'm showing in this is Blaze, who's my Pathfinder character. Blaze is a catfolk paladin who follows Cant and Kalian. If you've never played Pathfinder, Cant and Kalian is basically a party god, so Blaze is this lawful good partying boy. I had a ton of fun playing him back during our campaign, and the DM would actually play Cant and Kalian during campaigns if Blaze was trying to talk to him, and they would just have this super chill dialogue. It was really funny and casual, and so different from everyone else's experiences with their Pathfinder gods. I think the dynamic in the group was also super fun. Blaze was just really sweet and chill, but he was also airheaded, so it got him into a lot of interesting circumstances, I think. One time we were trying to find a missing person, and draw out this description we got. We were all kind of getting these middling rolls when we were trying to draw normally. In this act of frustration, Blaze ordered macaroni noodles at the bar and tried making macaroni art of the person in the description. And that is when we rolled a natural 20. It was photorealistic macaroni art that we couldn't show to anyone, and I loved it. Next, we have Crystal. Crystal is actually my oldest character. I've had her since I was 8, probably. I vividly remember role-playing her on the Neopets Neo boards. If anyone there remembers me, hey! I had my parents fax Neopets a parental permission form so I could go on the boards and roleplay since I wasn't 13 at the time. Anyway, Crystal is what I call a Chaos Fox. She originally started off as a Tails sprite recolor with 3 tails and all pink. All that ugly magenta pink that you would see as like a default option in MS Paint. But I ended up taking away 2 of the tails because I didn't feel like they did much in the end for her design and everything. And I think the color scheme really was enough for her. It's a really loud color scheme, I think. Maybe not loud, but it's a very... I think the color scheme fits her lore very well. So she basically runs a restaurant, right? Her parents are very, very supportive of her and got her a restaurant so she could make dishes and serve her own meals, right? Unfortunately, there's pretty much no one ever there because her food is nightmarishly bad while still being food safe. She's having fun though, so that's what really matters. If you want a dessert at her restaurant, you'll probably have to settle for a mayonnaise ice cream. So you know how I said Crystal's restaurant has pretty much no customers ever? Vuer is the exception. While Vuer hates the food, they keep coming back, hoping that one day Crystal might actually make a good meal. Vuer runs a food blog and is a gourmet, and they really like trying a lot of different unusual meals that they might not find elsewhere, and Crystal's restaurant does fall into that, even if it isn't very good. So when Vuer is back in town after traveling somewhere for a specific dish, they'll pop into Crystal's restaurant and sort of get back into reality with any of her drinks. She's got a nice cup of water with some vegetable oil in for seasoning. Calcite is my last character, and is also my newest character. They're actually pretty strongly based on my Phantasy Star Online 2 character of the same name. I don't have much lore for them yet, but I like to imagine them as being someone that's aggressively passive. They're someone that's always prepared for everything and likes to be helpful. So if you're hungry, they'll have some cookies on hand that they'll toss over. If you're hurting, they'll be the person with ibuprofen. They'll have that extra umbrella, that kind of thing. Really, right now, they're a robo self-insert for me. They're the kind of person I love and the kind of person I would like to be. Like, just someone who has a really strong, loud, warm personality. It's something I really like, and I wish I could do sometimes. Also, they're a robot, and that's just ideal. Thank you all for watching. It took me a while to make this video, not because it was particularly difficult, but I was just a little anxious about talking about my original characters, to be honest. I'm not really used to talking about them, or people listening in on them. I'll write stuff, but I always kind of feel like it's in a void. I don't really know if people are reading or not, since I'm mostly doing it for myself. I was originally going to make this actually a pure tutorial video, but sometime while I was drawing, I realized I have a lot to learn about making reference pictures, and I wanted to wait until I was a little more confident before I did something like that, but I still had some tutorials that could help speed up the process. So I wanted to provide those as tips. If you plan on participating in Art Fight, please feel free to poke me on Art Fight, or leave your name in the comments below so I can check you out. My username is Smokedopus. I've put a card up, both at the beginning and right now, so you can definitely take a look and enjoy. I'm going to be on Team Sugar. I really hope you had fun listening to this video, and if you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe and all the YouTube things. Again, if you're participating on Art Fight, leave a comment with your name so I can take a look. I'm going to take a look at everyone's Art Fight that comments, and I'll probably attack if I see any characters that really stand out to me that seem like a lot of fun to draw. Thank you very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.